Greetings, all! Today, we'll be examining the exceptionally rare Steel Dragon-type Pokemon Duraludon, the Alloy Pokémon. A fearsome sight to behold, and certainly not a beast worth tangling with unless absolutely necessary, Duraludon are powerful dragons that can more than devastate others with the right moves at their disposal.
Duraludon have large, gleaming silver bipedal bodies with two large, flat-bottomed feet with a single cobalt blue claw on each foot and two smaller silver projections on the outer side of each foot, as well as a cobalt blue underbelly, a short stubby tail, and a pair of arms with two blue bands each and no fingers, instead having a 5-pointed depression on their right arm and a 5-pointed projection on the other that fit together nicely to crush objects in their palms. They have a long neck with a series of dots and squiggle marks in the front, and the head has the appearance of an artificial lighter, with a head form that is attached to a barb-like projection at the base of their mandible, and further possess small cobalt blue teeth, a red-rimmed horn on the back of their head, and angled eyes with yellow sclera and greenish-silver pupils. In addition, these creatures have access to a Gigantamax form, and in this state, their forms grow immensely in size and the projections on the side of their feet enlarge in size for greater stability, their underbelly enlarges and turns into a large window-like form with a grey internal skeleton, and their head and neck fuse into a massive column of metal with a series of blue glass-like windows on the front, granting the overall form the look of a skyscraper. Duraludon are remarkably different from most other Steel-type Pokemon in that they are actually quite agile and can move their otherwise imposing forms at decent speeds, which makes little sense at first as their outer bodies are made entirely out of metal. The secret to this mobility lays in the fact that their outer metal armor is actually made out of a lightweight aluminum alloy that is designed to offer both protection against attack and mobility that can enable them to easily outspeed other steel types on a frequent basis, though what this alloy is comprised of, and likewise how it affects their combat capabilities, varies, and in turn is what allows these beasts to either possess light metal or heavy metal as base abilities, as well as the signature hidden ability Stalwart, which grants them the capacity to physically and even mentally detect any sort of ability or move that might otherwise force them to target an opponent different from the one they are intending to strike. This tough outer skin enables Duraludon to make the most of their forms and attack both up close and afar with considerable power, though they are generally more gifted in using special attacks, which they sadly learn few of. Moreover, their form is easily polished and gives off a bright gleam in the sunlight, blinding others and allowing these monsters to readily get the drop on others with little effort. The only major disadvantage that comes with their form is the fact that because it is an aluminum alloy, these creatures tend to rust very easily when exposed to water, and thus must stay in caverns and other forms of shelter when it starts to rain. But as an upside, the aluminum oxide coating their forms on the outside of their bodies helps to protect the rest of their form from corrosion, so a little rust isn't necessarily a bad thing for them. Duraludon generally live their lives alone in the wild and prefer it that way, living in environments where they have little to no competition to speak of. This is important, as these creatures tend to be very sensitive towards their food resources, feeding on aluminum-rich ore on the surface as their primary food resource. They are gifted in being able to process this raw ore, as their arms are asymmetrical, with one having a large indent in the palm and the other protrusion, so they can more effectively fit them together to crush said ore into more bite-sized chunks. Duraludon are fairly territorial creatures and can be a nightmare to have to face in any serious combat, as they tend to be quite ruthless and will gladly attack and decimate anything that dares to enter into their space without warning. This especially puts them into close contact with Tyranitar that they might share their territory with, and they are unforgiving the moment they see one of these creatures waltz into their space, striking with their best steel-type attacks they have access to, as well as the signature breaking swipe attack to lower the physical prowess of their opponents in order to ward them off of their land. As such, it is a wise idea to leave these creatures be as much as possible, as the appearance of such an enemy can trigger an aggressive state in them that can result in you and other Pokemon getting caught in the crossfire. Thankfully, battles of this sort tend to end in stalemates, as while Tyranitar have them beat in terms of raw power, Duraludon can prove to be a fair match for them, as while the overall stamina, physical strength, and resistance to special attacks might leave much to be desired, their base HP attack and special defense stats being below average for fully evolved Steel and Dragon-type Pokemon, they make up for this with their other attributes, as the base speed stat is above average for a fully evolved Steel-type Pokemon, the base defense stat is above average for a fully evolved Dragon-type Pokemon, and the base special attack stat is above average for a fully evolved Pokemon of both of their types, more than showing them to be tricky beasts to handle at any distance.
It is lastly known that Duraludon is one of only a select number of Pokemon known to be capable of undergoing the process of Gigantamaxing, with specific members of the species taking on a unique form when they are Dynamaxed in battle.
In this state, the forms of these creatures stretch upwards, their upper torso gaining a series of panels on their frames that look like windows and help to harness and absorb the Dynamax energy around them, glowing brightly from the profusion of energy flowing through them. In this state, Duraludon experience an overall tempering of their form that makes all of the cells on the outermost part of their body extremely hard, even compared to those seen in other steel types, and the forms become so sturdy and resistant to damage, both externally and internally, that their forms become resistant to earthquakes, making it exceptionally difficult to actually topple them over. While this might only be a temporary state for them, the immense power that flows through them while in this state allows Duraludon to utilize a unique G-Max move known as G-Max Depletion, which takes the standard Max Wormwood attack and infuses it with Dynamax energy-charged pieces of metal that deplete the stamina of the opposition regarding the last move they used, allowing these monsters as a whole to use their Dynamax power to the fullest to keep anything that would dare to face them in combat from using the best moves for very long.
These dragons might certainly look more than a bit funny to some, but laughing at them in their presence is likely not the wisest idea that one could possibly have. Their unique body form does tend to resemble lighters that you see in a convenience store, but the natural powers make them a severe threat to deal with if they can't be taken out quickly, as they can use their bodies to supercharge their special attacks to hit fast and hard from a considerable distance. This in turn can make them very difficult to handle from afar, but up close, the slew of physical attacks at their disposal can still make them a pain, especially since their signature breaking swipe attack can make them increasingly hard for an opponent to damage them directly with physical attacks. I have to say though, they've got an extremely sleek and futuristic look to their bodies, made of gleaming metal in such an abstract shape. It's almost hard to believe that they're natural life forms at all. They are though, and given how territorial they're known to be, their hissing cries should be taken as a signal to get as far away from them as possible if you don't want to meet a dire fate. They can be really hard to locate, but if you do manage to find one, don't butt heads with it and do your best to fight from a distance, even if that means that you might put yourself in the crosshairs of their best attacks.
Gleaming in bright sunlight, and more than able to blast apart those that dare to violate their territory. Duraludon are fascinating beasts that can make themselves into a threat worth taking seriously in any fight. It may take a while for them to get access to any decent special attacks naturally, but these beasts can more than be worth the effort if you need a sturdy fighter that can take a hit in close quarters and then blast apart those that cannot finish them off quickly.
Just do yourself a favor and make sure that you keep your distance in the wild and don't get in their face unless you're truly confident that you can take them on. They might not do well against special assaults, but if you can't use that to your advantage, these abnormal dragons will gladly smash you with the hands before launching you into the stratosphere with a mighty flash cannon attack straight to the face.
Thank you for watching this video. It brings me great joy to be able to speak to you all in the world each and every time we meet like this, to explore the many different facets of both the world of Pokemon as we know it, and the world as we live it, through every adventure we have with Pokemon by our side. If you'd like to, please subscribe, ring the bell and all that jazz, to keep yourself updated on content uploads and other materials of the like. You can also follow me on Twitter if you'd like to know right away when something new is uploaded, and my written works, from which most of this is based on, can be found on DeviantArt. Links to both can be found in the description down below. Remember that the world of Pokemon is a place full of wonder and mystery, and you never know what to expect. So, stay vigilant, keep watch, and always be prepared for the unexpected. Until next time, trainers and friends of all sorts, have a wonderful time.